At the center of the Torah is the book of Vayikra, Leviticus. In the middle or center of Vayikra is chapter 19. At the center of chapter 19, we find the verses 17 and 18, which include then the phrase, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh." I is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day 4 of Kedoshim, set apart ones. And this entire Torah portion is teaching us what it means to live a set-apart lifestyle. So the balance of a set-apart lifestyle then is loving our neighbor as ourselves. Yeshua admonished us to do the same. It's a difficult passage to actually apply at times because people get in the way. People are those that we deal with as much as we think others annoy us or cause us issues, or I wish they would change. I don't know why they have to act that way. All of those sentiments that we have in our minds. We have to remember that ourselves being people, we may affect others the exact same way. And so the balance is present yourself at your best and expect the same in return, but don't be disappointed if it's not what takes place. There are several things here beginning in verse number 13 and following. I just kind of like to comment on here. And verse 13 says, "Do not oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages of him who is hired is not to remain with you all night until morning." The basic premise here is pay the man what you owe the man. If you promised to pay or to pay back, if you borrowed or you hired someone, well, he's my brother in Messiah, so maybe he'll cut me a deal. A laborer is worthy of his hire. And so if they quote you a price and you agree to the price and they do the work, pay the man. Well, it's just not convenient to pay him right now. No, pay the man. If we promise, we must pay. Another aspect of this is not so much just business and monetary payment to someone. If you owe honor to someone has trained, equipped, benefited you in some way, they have prayed for you, they have supported you, however it is that they have demonstrated themselves worthy of honor, don't hold the honor to yourself. So if someone is worthy of your thanks, your appreciation, your honor, say so and let them know. So we all have those individuals that paved the way for us, that helped us in some way. Send a card, a text, an email, a phone call, in person, a gift, however it is that it strikes upon your heart. Pay them and let them know. And then it says, "Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind, but fear your Elohim. I am Yahweh." Now that sounds like teenage pranks where someone is disabled or physically challenged in some way, and kids just being who they are. At times they can be cruel. And we may even look back on our own teenage years and realize, boy, that was dumb. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't said that. Putting pranks in front of people who can't overcome them, that's not funny. Never has been, it wasn't then, it's not now. That all said, it's not just those that are hard of hearing or those that are physically blind, but it's also those that have not had ears to hear what we believe the Ruach has enabled us to hear yet. They have eyes that don't see what we might see. Studying the Torah and returning to a Hebraic focus of Scripture has opened up the entire Word to us. At least it should have. And we are greatly benefited. And we make all of these connections and insight discoveries, and they're fascinating, they're encouraging, they're life-giving. It's as if the book comes alive again in our reading. Not everybody has gained what we believe that we have gained. And the reality is we may not have gained as much as we think we have. Nevertheless, those who don't see what we see, for example, we see in Scripture that Shabbat is Shabbat. It's the seventh day. And then there are those that are still replacing Shabbat with first day worship. For us to put a stumbling block, ridicule, slander, malicious words against them when they just don't see it, it hadn't came to them yet. The Torah is saying, don't do that. Don't oppress one another. To love your neighbor as yourself is to not oppress him. Further, it says, do no unrighteousness in right ruling. Don't be partial to the poor, favor the face of the great, but rightly rule your neighbor in righteousness. Now, how do you rightly rule someone, have authority or help to them? In the book of Proverbs, Mishlei chapter 9, if you go down to verse 7 and begin to read, it says, he who reproves a scoffer gets shame for himself, and he who rebukes a wrong one gets himself a blemish. Do not reprove a scoffer, lest he hate you. Reprove a wise one, and he loves you. Give instruction to a wise one, and he is wiser still. Teach a righteous one, and he increases in learning. So, trying to correct someone who does not have a heart to be corrected, doesn't care what you've got to say. You may warn them, you shouldn't watch that on TV, or that music is not beneficial, or you shouldn't eat that because it's not unclean. If they're not there, if they're not seeking to walk in a righteous and upright life, leave it alone. They're not going to hear you. However, someone who is seeking the heart of Messiah and seeking to walk uprightly, if we say it the right way, if we approach it with the right heart, they will thank us. I never thought about it that way. I'm glad you said something. I hadn't realized that. But again, it's got to be done in the right way. And then it says, do not, in verse 18, do not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the children of your people. For all of the benefit that we see that we have gained in returning to the Scripture as the whole book and reading the Scriptures in balance and gaining the insights that we think that we have. For all of this benefit, one of the, how do I say this? The body of Messiah as expressed within the Hebraic roots community, it has the same divisiveness issues that we see in denominational Christianity, where one group disagrees with another group over a doctrine or a practice or methodology or governmental structure. They divide, set up camp, start all over again. When we came out of that system and that structure, we called ourselves returning and improving and gaining. But in all reality, I think we may have continued to practice what was practiced before us. And so for all of our different practices, we're not a lot different. Especially when we use our words to speak against those that we disagree with. It's great to disagree. It's great to have a difference of opinion, to see things different ways. That way, when we discuss things, if we do it correctly, we can all gain. We can gain your insight, my insight, and someone else's, and we have a greater, fuller, rounder picture. If it's divisive, if I'm separating from you because I disagree with you, then neither one of us have gained anything. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love them the way you want to be loved. Treat them the way you want to be treated. This is the essence and the balance of the Torah. and I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, shalom.